In this video, I'm going to share with you how you can heal your relationship with food. Now, most people think they don't actually have a relationship with food, but let me tell you, you do. Just as we have a relationship with money and relationship with other people, we have a relationship with food. And for a lot of us, it's not a good one. So for me, my relationship with food was basically sugar, right? Like I was just addicted to sugar from a very young age. At school, I would be hungry. I would have 50p, which is like 70 cents in my pocket after school. And the only thing I could buy with that was a chocolate bar. So I started indulging in that. It's like,
oh, I'm hungry, I need to eat.
So I ate some sugar, and then I was stressed, eat some sugar. And so my relationship with food was based on like how I felt at the time. So if I was stressed, I would eat lots of sugar, right? And that became my habit for the next 10 years of my life until I became an adult, till I became aware of my patterns and my emotions around food. And I learned how to deal with my emotions without needing food to soothe and numb my emotions. See, a lot of people, they eat food to not feel certain emotions they don't want to feel. So if you're feeling sad, if you eat a bag of popcorn, now you're not going to feel sad, right? At least that's what you tell yourself. And so that's how you keep doing the habit, right? So for you, ask yourself, what is my relationship to food like? See, a lot of people, what they do is they go and eat a cheesecake, for example. And then I heard this at the dinner table. I was at dinner once and the guy ate cheesecake and he's like, oh, I better go and burn this off tomorrow. And that is the mindset that a lot of people have. Maybe you have that mindset. And I want to share with you why that's so detrimental to your progress in the weight room and just in general in your personal fitness, right? Because every single person who I know who is lean, muscular, maybe bigger than me, it doesn't really matter, but if they're healthy, they don't have that dialogue with themselves around foods that are quote unquote off limits. First of all, they don't have foods that are off limits. This is a big secret, okay? It's not really a secret, but it is a secret. It's like every food is on the table, right? So people ask me all the time, is this allowed?
Aaron, is this food allowed? Is that food allowed? And I'm like,
everything is on the table. Because the moment you start putting limits on what food's allowed, now you're allowing shame and guilt to come in, right? So let's say if I need to eat these foods, right? And I eat like something else, I eat a pizza. That's not on my quote unquote diet plan, which I don't agree with, by the way, but anyway, let's talk about that. If I eat a pizza, it's not on my diet plan. Now what I'm gonna feel? I just did something bad, right? Because I was told to do this and I did this. So now I'm feeling guilty, because guilt is when you've done something bad. Shame is when you think you are bad, right? Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I've done something bad, right? So when you feel guilty for eating a pizza, how does that affect you personally on a personal level? You don't feel good about yourself, do you? You feel like you betrayed yourself. And what does that do? That decreases the amount of confidence and trust you have in yourself. So actually, this is a detrimental pattern that a lot of people have when it comes to dieting, which is why so many people struggle with self-esteem issues, right? I've struggled with that myself, and I still do to certain degrees, right? So a lot of people struggle with that, right? So I don't use that language. Like if I eat a cheesecake, my thought process is not like, oh, I got to burn this off tomorrow. First of all, that comes from the calories in, calories out train, which I could make a whole video on that. Basically, I'm not bothered about the amount of calories that a cheesecake was, because I know that that's not part of my normal diet. So I can enjoy that cheesecake without guilt, without shame, because it's something that I don't usually eat. And I'm just going to have a cheesecake. Who cares, right? And it's not a big thing. I don't make it out to be a big thing in my mind. See, that's the difference between me and other people, is that they make this thing such a big deal in their mind, and it's not. So the dog's here behind me. Looks like the storm's coming in. But you see what I'm saying? Like, if you're making it such a big deal in your mind, then of course you're going to feel the guilt and shame, right? But if you're thinking of food as, okay, I'm eating this food and it's not going to satisfy my emotions, first of all. Like if you're feeling stressed, eating a cheesecake is not going to help you feel less stressed. Now you're probably sitting there, you're probably nodding your head, you're probably like, or actually maybe shaking your head, you may be like, nah, cheesecake does make me feel less stressed. Let me offer a different perspective on that, because I used to believe all this stuff, believe me. Like, this is all stuff I've worked through over the years. So is it actually true that this cake is going to help me feel better? Maybe it is when you think of it, right? Because there's been studies shown that when you think of a cheesecake, the dopamine rise is actually higher than when you actually eat the cheesecake, meaning that the thought of having a cheesecake is more satisfying to your brain than actually eating the cheesecake, right? And so it's how we trick ourselves with our mind. Like, the cheesecake's not actually helping us feel less stressed. It's the thought that is helping us feel less stressed. So if we can think our way into feeling less stressed, why do we need the food? The answer to that question is we have to go into the events that happened where you created those connections between the food and the emotion. So there must be an event in your life where you're feeling stressed, you're feeling sad or whatever, and you had a cheesecake, and then you linked in your brain,
oh, if I eat cheesecake when I feel stressed, I feel better. So I should keep doing this.
and that's how bad habits start, right? Because we've connected an event, we've made it mean something that's not true, and then we just keep doing that unconsciously, and we're not even aware of it. This is why people can't get off their addictions. I'm not an addiction coach, but it's a big reason why. It's like we create meaning and we just reaffirm that. A belief is just it's like a scale. Like, you just have so many rocks on one side of the scale that it's such a hardwired belief now. It's like, oh yeah, of course that makes me feel like that because I've been doing it for years. But it's just that you've had so much proof of doing that for years. That's why you believe it. But it's not true. And the suffering comes when we don't question the thoughts and beliefs that we have, right? And so if you question that belief and thought, you will start uncovering and unearthing the real truth, which is actually, when I'm stressed, I can do lots of other stuff. I don't need to eat a cheesecake. So I digress, but as you can see, relationship to food goes quite deep, and I'd wager you to ask yourself these questions, right? Like, what is the thought that's driving me to eat this right now? Because a lot of times we just unconsciously go for it. Like, literally, just now, I went into the store and I saw this chocolate cake, and I could have had a chocolate cake, but I didn't, because I'm like, do I need this? Like, self-dialogue, right? Do I need this? But a lot of us don't even ask these questions. We just unconsciously do it, right? We don't even talk to ourselves when we're eating these kind of things. Anyway, I digress a lot, but I hope you got a lot of value out of this video, and just understand that we all have a relationship to food, and once you start questioning your beliefs, that's when you start opening the doors of doubt, which is what is needed, because a lot of the beliefs we believe are not true, but we're believing them to be true, which is why we're stuck, right? So when we start questioning what we believe to be true, which is not true, that's when we start accessing and getting more free in our life, because we realize that actually I can enjoy all of these foods and not feel guilt and shame when I'm eating a cheesecake, not feel guilt and shame when I'm eating chocolate, when I'm eating candy, because I don't eat it all the time. I'm eating nutrient-dense food 80% of the time. And sometimes, if I feel like it, if I'm at a party and they got brownies and they got cheesecake, yeah, I'll have some. Guilt-free. Why not? You know, and that's where I'm at with my relationship to food. Like, food doesn't control me. Food is fuel for me. I don't eat for pleasure. I eat to fuel my body. It's a completely different mindset. And if you're in that mindset of I'm eating for pleasure, it needs to taste good. Everything I eat needs to taste good.
Oh, that sugar. Oh, yeah.
That's probably why you're not getting the results you want. Now, I'm not saying food doesn't have to taste good. Of course, food is one of life's pleasures, right? Eating is one of life's pleasures. Every time I eat, I want to make sure it's a nice meal, delicious meal. But I want to make sure that I'm getting the nutrients. That's my first priority, right? And then the taste is secondary. So everyone that says I'm a foodie, that's an excuse, right? Because you can be a foodie and still be healthy, all right? So people use that as an excuse not to go deeper with themselves and figure out what beliefs are holding them back from having a crappy relationship with food and binge eating and all these kind of things, and going into their emotions and figuring out how they can process their emotions without needing food, junk food, to do that. All right, so if you want help with this, go ahead and click the link below this video. I've got a webinar you can watch, and then you can go ahead and book your free call, and then we can get on the phone, talk about this, and then you can get into our program where we're going to have people just like yourself. It's going to be mostly women, actually. And obviously, if you're a guy watching this, you can still join, of course. And maybe you can get yourself a new wife. Who knows? You know, and it's really good for you to be in this group, because what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of people who have the same beliefs as you around food or similar experiences, and you're going to feel like you can do this because can do this, first of all, but a lot of times we lack the belief in ourselves. So this is going to help you with that. All right, so go ahead and click the link below this video, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Because, hold on, there's a doggy coming here. Look at this little doggy. Well, it's not a little doggy, it's a big doggy.